Just point and laugh, boys. Point and laugh.
Hello there, my capitalist comrade. Today we'll talk about education and the big questions moving along with it. Most notably what comes up is money and spending. As per usual, the Dems want to spend other people's money and just pat themselves on the back and hope that by throwing more money into the fire, it will make it go away. So let's talk about the cost of education, what the Dems talk most about, and how we think that the problem can not only be handled, but also made to serve the public as a proper service. Let's just see how much money is actually being spent on education. That's fair, isn't it? In the US, education costs more per year than their military. And let me just remind you, that's the most expensive military in the world. The United States military budget per year is about 835 billion, at least in 2016. That's including what they pay to veterans. While education sinks in 946 billion. That's 111 billion more than the army. And despite the American army being by far the most expensive, it's by far the most efficient, unlike their education. Now you ask, GKZ, why does that cost so much? Well, I'll tell you why it has to cost so much. There are two main reasons for that in the US. The secondary reason is the student loan crisis, which is filling up like a big great bubble waiting to burst. And why do you suppose education has to cost so much? Well, it's because we have to pay all of those teachers, don't we? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that education was for the benefit of the students. Not so we can provide jobs for each failed university grad who couldn't find anything else to do but to teach the failed profession that he himself couldn't find a job with. Especially in left-leaning universities, that's exactly what we're doing. And because that is pure socialism, they teach your children that socialism and communism is in fact something good that you should be looking to bring into America. Because they're after all already used to suckling on the government teeth. There's nothing wrong with it, obviously, since they're doing it and they consider themselves good people. They're educating your children, after all, giving their precious time, teaching them nothing but communist theories, but that's besides the point. Have you also noticed that you have to pay for all of the books that your teachers wrote? Books that no one ever cared about outside of the university, but for some reason, instead of caring about the classics in the field that you're studying, you have to study what your failed professor managed to write in his spare time. How about you get the same books that Harvard or Princeton use? Oh no, we have to push our professors' pamphlets at like a few $100s a piece. But the student loan crisis and the high education expenses as total are just a symptom of the illness. The primary reason is by far the teacher unions in the country. In California alone, teachers pay into the system over $300 million. And you can't really not be a part of the system if you still want to keep teaching. In essence, that means that good and bad teachers don't get judged based on how their students are performing, based on what teaching techniques they are doing, based on their educational abilities, or based on anything whatsoever connected to merit. Bad teachers like this because they get to stay on with the same pay as everyone else, despite the amount of effort or improvement they show. So they want to remain in the system. Good teachers hate this, because they get to stay on with the same pay as everyone else, despite the amount of effort and improvement they show, so they leave the system. Let's think about this. With good teachers leaving the system, and bad ones remaining in the system, your kids, the ones you cried should get free education, will get the shittiest kind of education with the most uncaring caliber of teacher available. Under a system that doesn't reward good work and punish bad work, both the cost and quality of the service are negatively affected. At the same time, less people go into that profession, so the quantity of the product decreases as well. The only thing that leads to is less people being educated, and them being less educated on average than their parents were. That's what's happening in the US right now. If you're a millennial or anywhere near my age, your parents are probably smarter than you. Let me share a story from my post-communist childhood, when teachers and any other profession really, merit was sacrificed in favor of how connected you were and who close to the party you knew. The way it was set up is that from 1st till 4th grade, we had the same teacher teach us all the subjects, apart from foreign languages and physical education. So that teacher would be responsible for the whole class of 20 plus children and for their studies in mathematics, literature, spelling, reading, geography, history, physics, chemistry. Oh boy. If you had a good teacher that was actually interested in all of those subjects, you could really go far. However, not everyone was that lucky. My class, for example, got Mrs. P. Now, Mrs. P was a genuinely nice person, and I think she probably knew most of what she was talking about, if she ever talked about it. But the problem was, she couldn't keep the discipline in the classroom to save her wife. And yeah, sure, we were all little monsters. We always were late to class because we were playing soccer outside. Obviously, with such a weak-willed teacher, we were screaming all over the room, all the time during class. No wonder we didn't learn anything. Thing is, I expect a little bit more from a 40-year-old than I expect from 7-year-olds. Catch my drift? I sort of find that it's her duty to teach us, not ours to stay and listen. We're stupid kids, of course we're gonna run around screaming and stuff. It's her job as an educator, a paid professional, to handle that. To make sure that those kids, like the other 100 kids in this year, manage to learn to read, write, and calculate, apart from history, geography, and all the other good stuff. Thankfully, the school had some of the highest standards in the country for the students when it came to education. So the other teachers, with the everlasting "why don't these kids know anything?" managed to sort of cover for her negligence and got us through to the 7th grade. Question is, why didn't she lose her job for that? Every single teacher was yelling, "Why don't these kids know anything?" for my entire class, 5th till 7th grade. Since that's when the system change happened, after 4th grade, and you actually got teachers who knew what they were doing. Apparently we didn't deserve them before that. Just 1 or 2 teachers like that drawing salary and not doing their job can ruin an institution and many children's futures. And with the bigger issue being that the Dems, as per usual, are pushing to increase the ever so vaulted education bubble. All because they don't want to let bad teachers go. Because teachers pay fees to the union pays to the party, and the union tells the teachers who to vote for. Wow, what a qualification requirement. Vote for whoever I tell you. And that's sort of the problem here. They're being kept on the job to support their unions instead of teaching your children. As if the education system is in place to provide jobs for entitled teachers and votes for unions? Well, no, I still maintain that the system is there to educate children.
So, to make education into a proper service again, or make education great again, we need to allow education to be shaped by the free market, without the corrupt unions and leftist parties dictating who is good enough to teach your kids. Without any of that, in time, only good teachers will continue to be employed, and much more gainfully than they are now, which will incentivize them to reinvest in themselves and discover new and often better teaching techniques, increasing the quality they provide for their students, your kids, while drastically decreasing the cost. The high wage to low cost ratio will surely interest a higher number of people to go into the education field, which will increase the quantity, finishing the trifecta: lower cost, higher quality, and increased quantity. All the while, the teachers are both great teachers and greatly compensated. That's how education can be great. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos, you can click the subscribe button below to let us know you're waiting and impatient. Don't forget to let me know if you agree with me or not in the comments below. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you all next time.